Today we are going to learn how to make a clay coil. And with that coil, we're going to learn how, wrong side. We are going to learn how to make a spiral base. Let's get started. Hello, my talented artists. The first thing that we're going to do is take a pretty big chunk of clay that you can fit into your hand, and we are going to make our coils. We're going to begin by just making kind of a pickle shape.
A pickle.
You can roll it a little bit with your hands. This kind of smooths out your finger marks, your finger imprints, and then we're going to set it on our canvas mat. Now, when we're rolling coils, what we want to do, so I want you to practice this, put your hands together like this, and then we're going to roll it out like a V shape. So we're going to start in the middle of our clay, and we're going to roll it out, sort of pulling our big coil out. And what that does is it tries to make a nice, uniformly thick coil. And then I'm going to bring it back to the front of the mat, and I'm going to roll it all the way to my palms here. So I'm going to start at my fingertips, and then I'm going to roll it to my palms, just pressing evenly. Don't go fast, go slow. Bring it back to the front of the mat and roll it out again. Our goal is to have a coil that is about as thick as your finger. And as you see, it's getting longer and longer. And it's pretty uniform. You remember what uniform means? Right. So uniform means all the same. We want it to be all the same width. I can see it's a little bit more narrow here, so I'm not going to press on that part. I'm going to kind of press on a thicker part next to it, and just kind of, this time I'm going to kind of wiggle, wiggle, wiggle like a zigzag line. Just gently pressing a little bit, not pressing super hard, not pulling super hard, just gently. And I'm going to use my powers of observation. Well, first I see some cracks. Let's smooth those cracks out. Whenever you see cracks, you want to smooth them out. When you're moving clay around and you're touching clay, it dries out. So we want to make sure that we are staying focused. Don't touch your clay unless you're ready to make a coil. And then when you're ready, just make your coil. So I can see that the middle is a little bit thinner than the outside. So I'm not going to really press there anymore. I have to, again, use my powers of observation to make decisions on where I'm going to press, because I want my coils to be uniformly thick. Okay, so now I'm going to use this coil to make the base of my structure, and I'm just going to make a spiral. And as you fold, especially the very tip, you'll notice that you are going to get some cracks, and you can smooth those if you want, but they're going to be covered by the rest of the coil because we're making a spiral. So we're just rolling it up. If you have a hole in your spiral, that's okay, because we are going to be welding or blending the spiral together on the bottom. You could do it on both sides, but the main thing is the bottom. So you want to start with a spiral that's about that big. Whoops, flippy, flippy. So it should be about as big as the palm of your hand. And now we're going to weld it. When we weld, that means we're kind of smearing the clay together. I want to smear from the outside to the inside, okay? Because the clay is, if I go all the way to the edge, you're going to have little pieces of clay kind of sticking out, and that doesn't look nice, and it also can be sharp when the whole piece gets fired. We do not want sharp pieces of clay sticking out. Of course, the clay isn't sharp when it's wet like this. But as you know, we fire clay and then we glaze clay. Glaze is actually glass. Most of it is colored glass, but we also have clear glaze if you want to leave something white, because this clay becomes white. So as you can see, I'm starting at the edge and just pulling my finger to the center like that. So start at the edge and just smearing the clay to the center. Now I don't want the clay to kind of stick up and bump like that, so I'm going to tap it on the table just a little bit, and that's nice and flat now, as you can see. And that's the bottom, and that's where your name will be carved in. And we want it to be nice and smooth and flat. And now I have the beginning of my project. If you want to, you can take the end here that sticks out and you can kind of smooth and weld that. So you can keep it into a circle shape, or you can press it into any geometric shape, a square, triangle, whatever you want. So in your clay tool bin, there are these pencils that we use for clay. They're not for drawing, it's just something pointy. So at the end of the period, we are just going to do our base today. Just neatly, as legibly as you can, carve your name in there. Also, if you don't think it's neat enough, the cool thing about clay is you can just smooth it and write it again. We are only going to do the base today. So once you have written your name on the base, which I smoothed mine, so let me write it again. I'll just write Cairns. Sometimes it's easier just to write it in all capital letters, your name as, kind of large. And then you're gonna take your bag. A very important thing, because we have to wait a whole week, is that I want you to seal this up, this Ziploc, okay? So what I want you to do is keep it pressed on the table and listen for that snap. Okay, once you've pressed it down, I want you to take your finger and smooth it along like that. See, there was an extra little snap. Now that it's I forgot to tell you something. I'm opening it. Make sure that you've gotten the air out, because the air dries up clay. So we're just gonna press it. Do it again. One way, the other way, the other way. And then you're gonna put your clay back into your table bin, and you're gonna be ready to work on it next week and build up the walls. And you can use this spiral coil base for either your coil pot project or your fairy house project. Have fun!